Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Other Side of Addiction. I am Al Richards, your host, and I got my good buddy, good friend, my brother, JD here with me. JD, thanks again for being here, bud.
No, I love being here. This is the highlight of my week every week.
I know, mine too. I can't wait for Thursdays. I mean, I'm really chomping at the bit. It's like, when's Thursday going to get here? When is Thursday going to get here?
Right.
It's like my highlight because we've had so many incredible people on this show, and we've got one today, which I'm really excited that Mark Jay Silverman is with us. Mark, isn't it Virginia? Isn't that where you're at right now?
I am in Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C.
Wow.
It's gotta be fun right now, right?
It's always an interesting time.
Yeah.
The rest of the world moves on from things, and we never do.
No. Yeah, it's kind of crazy where things are going right now. We don't want to get too much into that, but
yeah, definitely not.
I was on a phone call last night with a gentleman from Melbourne, Australia, and he wants to come on our show and tell his story. And he says it's crazy where he's at right now too. He says it's actually pretty scary. Him and his fiance are just trying to get out of there right now because of things. But hey, we've got some happy stuff here because Mark, you've been through a lot, and I mean, I can't wait for you to share, to be honest with you, because as I was going through your little bio that you sent us, and then you and I kind of reached out through Messenger, and you were kind of telling me what your history was. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, this guy definitely has a story to tell. And to see where Mark is at right now in his life and what he's done, it's proof once again that you're not ever stuck, that you can always move forward. So a little bit about Mark. Mark has generated over $90 million in sales for fast-growing tech startups. He's achieved this by bringing together teams of executives and technical leaders to close complex multi-million-dollar sales. Holy cow. He's experienced firsthand the pressure of the hustle and grind culture, along with the unique challenges of the C-suite. Now, I'm not for sure what the C-suite is, so you're
C-suite.
Have...
The C-suite.
Oh, C-suite. C-suite. Thank you.
CFOs, CTOs, CMOs.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up for me.
The executive leadership teams.
So you play with the big boys, the real big boys. This experience, together with his years of training, I should expand this so it's easier for me to read, as a coach and facilitator, helps with clients create sustainable and lasting success in all areas of their lives. Mark is the author of Only Tens 2.0. Am I saying that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And Confront You To-Do List, Transform Your Life, and the host of the Mastering Midlife podcast. Mark, you've got a lot of stuff going on, buddy.
Yeah, given the thing, I'm the only tens guy, which is only focus on tens. I got more tens than I need to have going at the moment. But I'm feeling really blessed that the world is wanting what I'm offering. So I'm kind of hustling now because it's really rewarding.
It's good.
Yeah, that is really good. Are you finding, because of how the world is today with what's going on, the craziness that's going on out there, are you finding that more people are starting to open up their eyes and wanting to change? Because I mean, it sounds like that's what you do. You help people change and look at things in a different way, correct?
That's what I do all day, every day. For me, I think COVID-19 and the stress and the shifts that caused is almost like a midlife crisis. It almost brought a midlife crisis to everybody. The same thing happened in 9/11. All the people that I knew from the financial district in New York, and how many people changed careers, changed their focus, and really reevaluated what was important to them. I think in this past 2 years, the same thing has happened to a lot of people. So the shift and the introspection was hastened by the stress of everything that's been going on.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask that question, because I'm seeing it as well. I mean, I have a pretty large circle of people that I know, and hearing them talk and seeing which direction they're going with their life, I'm seeing a lot more people being more spiritual, not basically picking religion. I'm just saying that they're starting to get more spiritual. They're really opening their eyes and going, man, something's got to change. And they're wanting to be a part of that change. They're just not saying somebody needs to do something. They're actually doing something. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing as well. I mean, you're doing it.
Fish got to swim, Mark's got to coach. It's just the way it is.
I like it. What the heck got you into doing what you're doing? I mean, was it just one day you just had am I saying this right? An epiphany, just poof. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm going to do this. Really?
Not at all. Not at all. So we'll start in the middle of my story, since this is a recovery story.
Okay.
Back in 2008, 2009, stone cold sober, had been sober for decades. My life fell apart. My health fell apart. My career fell apart. My marriage fell apart. And it was horrible. And I was, again, we're talking stone cold sober. And I was suicidal. I was sick. I thought I was going to die. I was pretty sure I was going to die. I just really, I had failed. I had gotten sober. I was poor. I had become rich. I had fathered two wonderful children. I had won at life, and somehow it all hit a brick wall without me taking a drink or doing, anything nefarious. And for me, that was a real blow to my surety of my spiritual program, of what I knew about life. So I found myself in an apartment, living by myself around the corner from my wife and my kids, losing weight. I had hives and panic attacks and high fevers, and it was terrible. At that time, I remember reading something from Pema Chodron that said, in times of tragedy, in times of stress, you have two choices. You can harden or you can soften. You can close down or you can open up and be vulnerable. And I specifically chose to figure out how to make this gold. And that was the start there. So after several years, and people who have heard me before know my story, because I thought I was going to die, I made this decision that I needed to make $1 million to leave to my children and my ex-wife. I wanted to take care of them. I wanted to run the Marine Corps Marathon, and I couldn't run a mile, but I had heard someone on the radio say that anybody could run. So I called him and said, I need to run the Marine Corps Marathon. And he said, yeah, you can do it in 2 years. I said, no, I need to do it by October, 8 months from now, because I'm going to die. And he's like, that's a bit dramatic, but I don't think you can do it, but let's go. So he trained me, and then I was going to give $60,000 to charity, because I just felt just so despondent and like such crap about myself that I wanted to give back to the world. So sick and suicidal, and my career just in the toilet, started running, started listening to self-help books, started listening to spiritual books. And lo and behold, I ran the Marine Corps Marathon, an hour faster than even my coach expected. I made the $1 million. I gave the $60,000 charity. And what was really ironic was I was healthier than I ever was. My career was just taking off. My kids and my ex-wife were doing okay. And everything looked like it was good. And so I was still depressed, and I still didn't know what to do with myself, but things had shifted. And I was reading this book by a guy named Alan Cohen called Relax into Wealth. And Alan Cohen is a spiritual leader, Course in Miracles kind of guy, Law of Attraction kind of guy. And I was just turning 50. And for my 50th birthday, I was going to give myself a present and go to one of his retreats in Hawaii. I just wanted to go to a spiritual retreat. I just felt like I needed something. And I hadn't spent any money on myself or done anything for myself since my separation. And this was something I was going to do. So I signed up, and then I get a call from Alan Cohen, the author. And I'm like, this famous guy, why is he calling me? And he says, Mark, this is Alan Cohen. I'm calling you because Spirit told me I need to call you. I'm like, okay, Spirit called you to, told you to call me. Great. And he says, Spirit said that you're in the wrong program. You shouldn't go to my spiritual retreat. You need to go to my coaching program. And I'm like, what is coaching? Can we swear on this show?
Yeah, yeah, we've had some swear words. We try to keep
Right,
the
'cause-
F-bombs down low, but yeah, it
no,
happens.
so that's not exactly what I said. But I was, like, what the F
Right.
is coaching? I don't even know what that is. I'm a sales guy. And he started to tell me, coaching would make me a better ex-husband, husband, father, sales guy, all that stuff. And then when I told my ex-wife about it, I was like, this guy, Alan Cohen, says that I should do this coaching thing instead of the program that I signed up for. And she said, that's it. That is what I've been telling you, you need to do all this time in your corporate career. We didn't know what it was, but you needed to teach people what you know. You needed to teach people the way you moved through the organization and with your customers. And we thought it might be HR or whatever, and you needed to make a certain amount of money. This coaching thing is what it is. And I was like, wow, if my ex-wife, who depended on me, and I was paying all the bills and all that stuff, says this is what you were born to do, I started it. And that's how I learned about coaching. And that's how I became a coach. Otherwise, I had no idea that this was a profession or a thing.
And all of this started because you were thinking about taking your life.
Yeah.
I mean, you gave yourself a certain amount of time, and then you were going to reach that goal, and then basically you were going to punch out. And
I will tell you, I'm too much. I would not kill myself. I was hoping a bus would run me down. I was hoping that this disease would take me down. I wanted to die, but I would not do that to my children. I read,
right.
Like when I was a teenager, I read that, children of people who commit suicide are more likely to commit. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. I am going to stick around. I'm going to keep walking. So what happened was the first year, I was like, okay, I can stick around. The second year was like, all right, I don't hate myself so bad. The third year, I was like, okay, I'll live until my youngest graduates high school. The fourth year, I was like, oh, I got this thing. After 5 years is when it really clicked in, and I found self-love. Like when I found self-love, that was something I never had in my 50 some odd years of life. When I found self-love, that was the game changer. And I wanted everybody to know that they were worthy and loved. And no matter what was going on in their lives, they were okay. And that was kind of my, like when you quit smoking and you want everybody else to quit smoking, that's what drove me to, and it still drives me today. I want people to know that they are free. I want people to know that they can create the life that they want. Yes, there are circumstances and there's a deck of cards you've been dealt, but you have so much more freedom than you ever knew. So that's my mission, is to tell people and show people that that's the case.
I like it.
Yeah. Good for you. You got something, JD?
No, I would actually love to talk to you more off the show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we have found that, right, from other guests that have been on the show. And the thing about self-love is we talked about it a couple of weeks ago on one of the shows, that we're okay as humans. So like if JD is struggling, I'll give him all the love that I can. I'll comfort him. I'll tell him I'm here for him, whatever he needs. But I'm struggling inside and I won't do anything about it. I'll help him, but I won't help myself. And I know my wife struggled with that a lot during her addiction, is feeling like she was unworthy. She wasn't worth it. And one of our good friends who's been on the show and shared her story, her name's Mallory Roosh, phenomenal young lady. I mean, I just love her to death. I told her I was going to adopt her as one of my daughters because she is just an incredible gal. But she was on another podcast that I was listening to, and she goes, everybody in this world is worth it. Everybody that is here is designed to be here right now. All you got to do is start loving yourself and realize there's something there. Because when God put us here, we all have our own purpose. There's a purpose for us to be here. We may not understand what it is, but sometimes we got to go through a lot of bullshit for that light bulb to go off. Right. And it sounds like you went through a lot of bullshit. And then all of a sudden, it's almost like God started just putting the right things in front of you, or the Spirit started whispering in your ear going, okay, let's give it to this time. Okay, now let's give it to this time. I mean, you were taking those steps.
Yeah. But I didn't know what I didn't know. So I didn't even know what I didn't even know what self-love was. Like, if you told me that it's like, it's from another planet, I wouldn't know what you're even talking about until it happened, right? Until, oh, I don't have to trash myself before anybody else does to keep myself safe, right? Because there's a belief you grow up with, or I grew up with, that if I trash myself first, if I'm hard on myself first, if I'm, vicious to me first, nobody else can do anything to me. So I need to get there first. That was my belief I was living with. And
Wow.
when I gave myself a break, I felt immensely guilty. Like, is this okay to give myself a break, to actually be kind to myself, to self-soothe? Is this okay? I made a mistake. Is it okay not to beat myself up? Is it for me, it was irresponsible not to beat myself up. So finding out that, oh no, the opposite is true, was a revelation. But it's nothing you can manufacture. You just got to prepare the ground by doing all the work. And then
Yeah.
those things start to show up. You can't manipulate enlightenment. You can't manipulate freedom. You have to do the work so that it can show, so you can see what's actually already there.
Yeah, it has to be felt, right? It really has to be felt deep down inside, because the universe knows when you're faking it. I mean, you can't trick the universe, right? I mean, it knows.
Can't
No,
trick yourself.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
no, and I like that, talking about self-love and stuff and where you were at, like feeling, and I do that to myself. I'm in sales as well. And I do door to door is what I do. And then I've done some business to business. So, but it's definitely a grind. And there's times and stuff, where if I decide that, like, in my head, I'm like, hey, you deserve to take a day. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty, the fact that I can pretty much control my schedule however I want, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Like, it can be a bad thing, right? But
Right.
for the most part,
Never underestimate a crappy sales manager who goes on your case, right? Never underestimate the value of that.
Yeah, right. But if I decide that I need some R&R and stuff, and like I'll decide to take a day off or spend that weekend with my kids and stuff, I always find myself stressing, because it's also too like, oh no, you really should be back out in the field, or you shouldn't be taking this time off, because what if you have a bad week next week, or what if you have a bad month next month? Like, you're just, you only make what you go out and sell. So like being ahead of that curve and stuff. And then I start to feel guilty, or like, oh, if I put myself in that position, or my family in that position, like, am I going to be like, that's not okay. And then I get to the point where I'm like, now I got to go hustle, magically pull money out of my ass, and I happen to do that every year, once a year. It's around Christmas time, but it's
I'll say ditto.
right.
I get it.
But having to get to that moment and stuff, and then just building up in the consistency of the world, and so having that self-love, or knowing that just to really take the day and do and allow that R&R and love it and accept it and truly rejuvenate is something that I need to get better at. Because it is. I mean, most of the time, even if I buck out and I did good for the day, and had a good successful day, and I've got appointments lined up for the next day and things, and I buck out an hour early or whatever, or just cut my day a little short so I could go spend some time with my wife and kids, which is important. They need that time too. I don't want to be the dad that's a slave drive at 80 hours a week. But sometimes I find myself sitting there feeling guilty. Like, this isn't productive to me. When it is productive, and being there in my daughter's life, or my, all my kids' lives and stuff like that. But, I do feel that quite often it creeps up on me, and then I feel worse. And then it's like that saying, like, almost like I'm not grateful for where I'm at. And so it's like, if I'm not grateful for it, it will be taken away from me. So it's like, I got to keep ahead of the ball. So, and I mean, I personally exhaust myself pretty heavily on that.
I'm sure. And nobody's immune, because I just came back from, a couple of weeks in Hawaii and a couple speaking gigs. So I've been out of my pocket for, 2 weeks. And the anxiety that I came back to, and I'm the only tens guy, I'm the mastering overwhelm guy. That's my thing. But I'm not immune. I came home to, oh my God, all the things that I haven't done in the emails I haven't responded to. And, one if my clients, one of my clients needed me, and I actually didn't return the call because it wasn't an emergency and I was on vacation. And, what did that mean? So that self-talk for me never goes away. But I've learned how not to listen to it. Other people talk about how they can fix the self-talk and they can. I haven't been able to do it. I haven't been able to teach anybody how to do it, but I have been able to learn how to ignore it and not care. I don't care what my brain has to say to me. It does me no good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And both you guys brought up really good points, because I get that way too. There's times my wife has said to me, I feel like this other stuff is more important than me. And it's because as entrepreneurs, we're always trying to hustle, and we're trying to push, and we're trying to push. And I'm not saying that I have it down 100%, because I would definitely be lying. I mean, maybe I've got a third of it, maybe a quarter, but I've realized there's that time now to where it's like, I'm just going to throw my hands up. It's still going to be there tomorrow. It doesn't need to be done today, and pay attention to my wife, show her that I still care about her. And she's really supportive, especially on this podcast, because, she's battled her addiction. The only reason why I'm doing this podcast or started is because of her, so she's very supportive, but I've really had to pull myself away, because I worked for a manufacturing company for 24 years, and I worked my ass off to move up into the corporate and get into management. And a buddy of mine that I play golf with, excuse me, he was the packaging engineer, and he and I worked on a lot of projects together. And we're out playing golf one day, and we're like, man, we gave so much time. We dedicated our lives for this company. And the guy we were working for he was a great guy to work for. It was kind of when he sold the company and different people came in. So it's like, what do we got to show for it? I miss some of my daughter's plays and different things like that, because nope, dad doesn't have time, because I've got to take care of this. And I even had to, I beat myself up for years going, look at all this shit that I missed because I was so focused on this other stuff. And really, did it really mean anything? I don't have anything to show for it. Yeah, great, man. I was a guy that worked freaking 14 hours a day. Woohoo. Look at me. And now I'm going, that was so stupid. That was just stupid. And so I'm working on that, kind of like what you are, Mark. I'm working on going, you know what? There's a time now. There's a time when I've got all this stuff in my head's doing the same thing. I got emails, I've got voice messages. Just, it'll be the way it's going to be. It's going to happen when it happens. Don't force it. Just let it go. So good stuff. Talking about the self-love. Did you have a pretty decent childhood and things, were hunky-dory? Because sometimes we get people on here that say, really, I had a great childhood. I had a loving mom and dad, and, things were great. But as they dug deeper, they started realizing there was something that happened to them that they held inside. And then as they got older, that stuff started festering. Because I've seen that happen with my wife. She hung on to a lot of stuff, being bullied, picked on as she got older, being told she wasn't worth it, got through bad relationships. And when we got married in 2009 and I lost my job, then she lost her dad. And then 6, 7 months, 8 months after that, we lost our house. That was her breaking point, when really the addiction really started showing itself, because it didn't show itself before. It was there, but it was hiding extremely well. Tell us a little bit more about your story. Where kind of things started where you didn't have that self-love for yourself?
So my childhood, on the outside, there was nothing wrong with my childhood. But there was some mental illness in my family that really kind of did a number on me. The neighborhood that I grew up was basically Lord of the Flies. I was the only Jew in an Italian, Irish neighborhood. Didn't go well for me.
Okay.
It was not an easy childhood. I was also a sickly kid, asthma and all kinds of stuff. Then the drugs and the alcohol took over really quickly. By 13, I was already drinking and doing drugs pretty regularly.
At 13, huh?
Yeah. So,
Wow.
I look at that, both my kids were bar mitzvahed, and I look at them at 13. And when I realized what I was doing at night at 13 and looking at them, really kind of horrified me at what a little boy I was, and I was doing adult things, and it was really not good. And that continued through high school and college. And I went to college and got all zeros and wound up moving out of my dorm room and bartending in just kind of dropping out of college, because the cocaine, the drinks, and the fun was much more interesting than college.
Yeah.
So that was my entree to adulthood at 18 years old. Bars are great. Drugs are great. Sex is great. I'm having a blast. And that just didn't go well for me.
And you struggled with that for quite a while, right? I mean, it grabbed a hold of you. And we had a gal, her show just came out this past Monday. She's from the UK. And I remember her saying that when at 18 and she started going to parties with friends and drinking, she remembers her mom telling her once, be careful because it'll grab a hold of you without you even knowing it.
Right. And my parents were struggling with their own stuff. So there was really nobody to guide me and help me pull out. So fast forward to 27, I ended up homeless and living in my truck. And I came to Washington, D.C. to borrow some money from my brother, who I didn't know at the time was actually sober in AA and NA. So when I drove my truck across the country and came here and lived with him, he put me in, NA and AA, had me go to the gym, had me start taking college classes. So my brother really helped me get myself in some kind of a groove to start building a life. So, that sobriety is where everything started to change. So
basically from the age of 13 on to 27, you were pretty into it pretty heavy. And like you said,
it was pretty bad, and each addiction that I had, it wasn't even just the addiction. I didn't have a self. I didn't have a, I just didn't have an identity to live a life with. I was just a shell.
Do you feel like in that, having that addiction, obviously you had parents with their own struggles and stuff. So obviously going through that, you didn't have the guidance, as you mentioned, right? Or the support that a child should have, right? But do you feel like from that time of 13 to 27, before you got with your brother and stuff, and he's able to help you turn things around and help, in a sense, guide you in a direction to help start your life? Do you feel like drugs, alcohol, and sex was a term for you, as feeling like the shell, but a way to fill that emptiness?
Oh, totally. It was a way to have a life. I remember when I was bartending, before I quit drinking, I was voted best bartender in New Haven, Connecticut. And then when I quit drinking the first time, they fired me because I was no longer fun. But
holy cow!
It wasn't even just filling a hole. It was creating the life for me. My life was the bar. My life was the sex. My life was the partying. That was my life. There was nothing else to go back to. Like, I didn't have a hobby. I didn't have anything to live a life with, which is, kind of sad now looking. I have a very rich family. And I don't mean by money. I mean, like, I have an extended family that I adore, that I didn't speak to any. When I went away for 5 years and didn't talk to anybody, my parents, my brother and sister, any of my family. And I've come back, and since being sober, have reconnected with my extended family, and the richness in there and the relationships are so beautiful. But I didn't know any of that when I was, heavily into the addiction. Just did not know what existed in the world outside the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get caught up in life. So there's a recovery place here downtown Salt Lake City. It's called the Other Side Academy. The gentleman who started it, they pull people off the streets getting ready to go to prison. It's a 2-year committed. You have to be committed, and you have to be accepted into it. And I went down, introduced myself, met the owner, and met his assistant, Robin, and she kind of gave me some history, and Dave gave me some history, and they have a thrift store. couple thrift stores here in Salt Lake, and they're like, hey, stop in and visit, and I'm like, all right. So they gave me the name of the guy that runs the store. So on a Thursday morning, before one of our podcasts, which is, the store's not too far from it, I stopped in there and I met this manager, and he started telling me his story. And he came from the streets, gang banging, doing all kinds of nasty things, as he said, being mean to people and robbing people and shooting at people. I mean, just terrorizing anybody that they could. Got sentenced to prison, ended up going to this place called Delancey Street. Really started kind of changing his life. And he goes, Al, I had no idea there was another life, because this is all I knew. And it goes to show, because you fell into that same trap. You had no clue that, I mean, he knew gangbanging. That's all there was. I mean, there's no other life out there. Everybody else is gangbanging too, because this is all I know. And then when he started opening his eyes and started realizing what else was out there, he was like, holy shit, look at all this that I'm missing. I mean, there's some really cool stuff out here, and I'm wasting my life by doing these other things. But again, it took that kind of that slap in the face to give him that aha moment before he realized there is a different way with life.
Yeah, no, we talk about the reason that you and I connected was the article that I wrote about the improbability of the life that I lead. The fact that I've, got married, had children, raised these amazing young men. And, I was the committee chair for the Boy Scouts. I coached baseball and basketball. I made tons of money and was successful in business. And now I'm Yoda, right? Like, so my job is to dispense wisdom and perspective, and the improbability of going from where I was to building a life, to then building a life of substance and meaning that I can share with other people and influence other people. It's totally improbable, and you couldn't have predicted it, right? So I'm always in awe. Just got back from Hawaii, and and as I was sitting on the boat getting my scuba diving certificate, I sit there and I marvel and I say, how did I end up on a boat in Hawaii? I still marvel that I live in a big home, and, I have 2 dogs and a loving family. Like, I still marvel that this happened. And yes, I was there and I made choices and I did some of the work. And I always talk about, I don't know how much of it is grace and how much of it is me. I know it's a combination of grace and me. I just don't know the percentages. It could be 1% me and 100%, 99% grace.
Yeah.
Could be 50-50. I don't freaking know. But the fortune and the gratitude that I have that this is how it's ended up so far. I still could end up under a bridge, and this was all my head will tell me this is still all a farce. But up to date, this is kind of astounding to me.
No, it's amazing. And again, to go through the things of living in your truck, again, the addiction problems, working at the bar, obviously being surrounded by that all the time. So, obviously it took a really strong mind for yourself internally to be like, okay, I think it's time for Mark to sober up, and then still being surrounded by that, you got people that come in, hey, Mark, let's have a shot. Mark, let's have a drink. Mark, oh, we like drunk Mark, not sober Mark. Like, hey, I don't know if this is going to work out anymore. Like, to go through those trials, and then to go from, being at a point of losing pretty much everything, or, in career going down the toilet, your marriage going down, and being in those spots of, obviously us as humans, you can see that you were in a moment of like, we want to fix things. You wanted to fix it, right? You're like, what solution do I have? And trying to fix it, you finally came to a point where you, what's the right word? It's like,
Surrendered.
You surrendered.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, none of it would have happened if I didn't have kids. The strength that I needed to overcome the gravity of dysfunction and conditioning in my head that would pull me towards the destructive stuff. The only reason that I found the strength to overcome some of those really horrific internal things that were going on was because of what I wanted to be for my sons.
Wow, that's well put. That's really well put. We're going to stop for a quick break, but I still found it interesting. Most people get fired for drinking on the job. He got fired for not drinking on the job.
Yeah, I no longer went in the bathroom and did cocaine. I was no longer fun.
No longer fun. Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. All right. Hey, Mark, again, thank you for being with us. We're going to stop for a quick break, and we'll be right back.
How do you start your morning? Start it with a cup of High Point coffee. Because no matter where you go or what you do, it's always better with coffee. High Point coffee. What's your high point? Located on the corner of 7800 South and Redwood Road in West Jordan. And a special thanks goes out to our partners in Oxford, Mississippi.
This is Gregory, owner of Lift Up Concrete, proudly serving the Wasatch Front for the last 12 years, lifting sunken flatwork for both residential and commercial applications. Only fully trained professionals lifting concrete at your residence with the same quality of material and method used at every commercial job we ever do. Don't replace it, lift it. liftupconcrete.net, 801-792-4535. Contact us at liftupconcrete.net, or if you're looking for a complimentary quote, 801-792-4535. Again, 801-792-4535. Again, this is Gregory, Lift Up Concrete Lifting.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the other side of addiction. Before we get started again here with Mark, I mean, that first half was great. That's some really good information. We want to make sure that we give some thanks to our sponsors. We've got High Point Coffee, West Jordan off 7800 South and Redwood Road, Lift Up Concrete out of Kaysville, Serve Pro from Ogden all the way down to St. George. We have USARA, Utah Support Advocates for Recovery Awareness. Computer Hospital, my good friends, Letitia and Kevin over there. I mean, this beautiful Mac sitting here on the desk. Thank you guys for all your support and all your help. We also have Refiner Production. Cameron and Austin are just great guys. I just had coffee with Cameron the other day and we had a really good conversation. We also want to say thank you to Taffy Town for your support, your love, your kindness. And one of our newest is DB Enterprises. So some of you guys have seen on social media, my good buddy Shane, he's the one that took time out of his day, out of his work schedule to come and do this incredible wall for us. So we got a better backdrop. So Shane, again, brother, thank you so much for your time, for believing in what we are doing for our cause. And we've got more people, more sponsors, but we'll do that at the end of the show. But I also want to say thank you to Brad Newfield with Resilience Talk Network. I mean, really, if it wasn't for High Point and Brad, it's those two people right there that got this show rolling. And we are just so grateful and appreciative. And we also want to say thank you to all our listeners, because the messages that we are getting, I still get teary-eyed. You guys can probably hear it in my voice. I still get teary-eyed because of the messages that we are getting from people just going, thank you for what you guys are doing. Thank you for getting the message out there. It's about time this is happening. And there's other people out there, just like Mark, our guest, who's out there helping people change their lives and realize that, yeah, life is worth living. We just got to see it, and we got to believe in ourselves and make it happen.
Absolutely.
Right? So before we left on break, let me get back to my notes again. Mark, we were talking at the break, and you made a comment that I really, really liked. And you said, all of us are addicts. You want to share with that? Because like JD was saying, when he was on our show as a guest, he basically said, Al, if you look at it, you were an addict too. You were addicted to your wife's addiction. And I never, ever thought of it that way until he said that. And he was 100% right. And we had Vanessa on our show, Vanessa Brewer, and she basically was a workaholic. She was an addict, but it was towards her work. So is that kind of what you're saying by all of us are addicts in one way or another? Or do you look at it in a different way?
I'm probably a little harsher than that.
Okay. All right.
So for me, the tendency to miss the point in these conversations is for people who do not have alcohol addictions or drug addictions and are destroying their lives, in real time, where people can see the damage, is to identify out, oh, it's so good you got sober. Oh, it's so sad that they did this. When you watch people, when you look at the world and you see that there's never been more information about healthy food and what to eat and how to exercise, there's never been more apps and ability to take care of yourself physically. And obesity is an epidemic. It's worse and worse and worse. When you look at your phone and that little red dot on your social media, the billions and billions of dollars that go into getting your attention away from your life and onto that piece of technology, they know your psychology. They know we are dopamine lab rats, that we are just chasing dopamine all day long, whether it's having a political argument, whether it's overworking and workaholism, whether it's bad relationships. We're looking for that hit. We're looking for that comfort. And it's so much easier to say, when I talk about midlife, so my whole thing is the midlife crisis. And when I say people are avoiding the contemplation of midlife and what life is trying to tell them, I start pointing to all the craft beer that is available. Like I know a lot of people who are not quote unquote alcoholics, but they bring their kids to the breweries out here in Virginia that are on the rolling hills and drink beer all freaking day, or they're in wine clubs. And, this is the socially acceptable way of numbing out, Netflix and chill. We're all looking for ways to either get dopamine, to get away from the pain, and the conditioning just gets worse and worse and worse. So when we talk about addictions, and I'm on more shows than I would think about talking about addictions, I don't want people to miss the point. Oh, poor Mark, he ended up homeless because of these things. Yeah, well, I know a lot of people who ended up divorced because they couldn't let go of their jobs, or couldn't let go of having affairs because they had to fill that hole inside of them with someone new. So for me, it's more being human, and being human is dealing with our childhood while we're adults and trying to figure out how to put duct tape and band-aids and glue on all those hurts and all those things as a 40 or 50-year-old that are coming to rear their heads. Now there's just too many socially acceptable ways to numb out. We're more lonely than we've ever been, even though we're more connected. Loneliness is an epidemic. Loneliness is more dangerous than smoking cigarettes when it comes to our health. This study shows that people are sicker from being alone. So when we talk about addictions, I'm more interested in the human condition. In the human condition of me ruining my life stone cold sober because the demons of the past came up and it was too much for me to deal with. Right. That's what I'm talking about when I kind of get all, kind of fired up about, don't be pointing at any of us who were, homeless because of alcohol or drugs and go, oh, poor baby. Look at your own life. And what are you addicted to? What do you absolutely need in your life? Otherwise, you're not okay. And that's when you start to see the change that really are there. I need my spouse to treat me a certain way. Otherwise, I'm not okay. And that tension in the relationship, it just goes on and on. So soapbox over.
No, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And with everything you just said, and we all know, I'm sure we all know here, suicide has increased like crazy.
Especially in, not just middle-aged men and stuff, but also too in children. It has spiked
20 and under.
Yeah, it has spiked. I mean, my brother's school, his high school down here in Salem, Utah, they had 5 kids commit suicide last year out of that one school, which is astronomical. Like that stuff that you used to not hear about, and now it's a common thing, which is not okay.
Yeah,
it's not, and it's
not okay.
With consciousness, it can be addressed.
Right.
That's the problem is, when how many people do you know that are on some sort of antidepressant or some sort of anti-anxiety medication?
Yeah.
Because the prescription isn't go out for a walk. The prescription isn't get connected to people, get connected to nature, get connected to values, get connected to spirit. That's not the prescription. It's here, take this pill and you will be better. Unfortunately, it's true. In my Mastering Overwhelm workshops, I fly around the country talking to CEO groups, and I talk to them about overwhelm. I have a distinction that I make about coping mechanisms versus coping skills. Coping mechanisms are the things that we use to fix whatever's going on with us. So a coping mechanism is I don't feel right about something, or I just had an argument, so I'm going to have a cookie or a beer. Right? A coping mechanism is, I had a long day, I'm just going to Netflix and chill. Coping mechanisms are easily accessible, like addictions, right? There, porn is anonymous, it's available, and it gives you that dopamine hit, right? So the coping mechanisms are easily reachable, they're affordable, they give you the quick hit. Coping skills take work. Coping skills take choice and decision, where the coping mechanisms feed into addictions. Coping skills give us more range, where coping mechanisms make our world smaller and we need more and more of it. Where coping skills gives us this range that we can address more things. It gives us strength and a vitality. Coping skills are eating healthy foods, exercising, journaling, talking to people, getting better perspectives, any of numbers of meditation, any number of those things are coping skills that can last all the way through, whatever it is you're going through. Where a coping mechanism, you have to reach for that as soon as you can. Do you get the distinction there?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it's something we see and stuff. I mean, I'm talking about a show my sister's talked about, The Social Dilemma, or right. Social Network and stuff like that, but just that's the other thing too, is like, I'm just going to go to like kids, and again, going back to suicide, but like kids in school and stuff, like bullying or being bullied in the hall. I mean, I was bullied a little bit when I was, a kid, and it was different because it was like a one-on-one thing. I had one kid that I had to deal with, and social media and like the comfort of that comes down to where it's broad range. You got a lot of people out there that just mean, right? But that dilemma, and I mean, I would agree that we've probably all been victims of that, you know, and not saying victims. I mean, obviously, again, like you said, that skill versus not the skill, you know, it's easy to go home, or like when you get up, or you go, when you're laying down, just kicking on the couch, whatever, how easy it is to pull up the phone and scroll through social media. How easy is it to go home and be like, I'm just going to sit down here for a second, take a break. And then you grab the remote, and then it's one button, two button, and then you're watching your show. And now you're buried into something that has nothing relevant to making your life better, but it's making you feel better, you know, in a sense. For that time being, it's like a Band-Aid, right? When naturally it would be better to go outside and take a walk, put your feet in the grass, but, you know, get up in the mountains, or read, doing something that making yourself grow, you know, what's going to make you progress. And I'm not saying that we don't, you know, deserve time to sit back and watch our favorite movie or show once in a while, but, you know, it's again like that deciding factor. Instead of taking that 20 minutes, you might scroll through Facebook, take the 20 minutes and go for a walk, and what it can actually do.
Is it, you know, is it a conscious choice? Like, I'm going to watch my show,
right?
Like that's a conscious choice. Oh,
Yeah.
I just turn on the TV, see what's on. That's a different, that's fallen into your mechanism for me. And I'm not saying, you know, like I'm not holier than thou. When I'm between clients, sometimes, you know, I don't want to go meditate, or I don't want to go for a walk. I'll sit and check on my social media, and I'll start scrolling. Then I'll start watching puppy videos and Jennifer Hudson, you know, videos, you know, and next thing I know, 20 minutes has gone by, and my next appointment's in 10 minutes. Oh shit. Now I got to go to the bathroom and, you know, do all that stuff. So the world is trying to get our attention. It's an attention economy. The world wants us paying attention to them and not our own lives. So those addictions are much more subtle and socially acceptable, and, you know, over years start to rob us of life.
Well, I think it also too robs us of our creativity, you know, because you got things that think for you. Like I just remember being a kid, we were talking about this the other day, but we all remember when we had to remember the phone book, right? Or the girl's number that we wanted to go call, or whatever, our friends' numbers, right? And usually, like, I got really excited when all of a sudden we had that 30-foot cord instead of the 5-foot cord from the phone, you know,
So
like
you
I
could
could
go
wander
somewhere else.
around, right? So I remember that. Like, kids will never know what that's like, but like you had to remember. Like, I remember my first home phone number still to this day.
Yeah, so do
But I can't remember my grandparents' cell phone number. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that it's like we have these things. It's like, oh, we're dependent now because these things do it for us. Like, it's making it so it's almost like we don't retain, because we're not exercising our brains as much either, that we don't retain things and do things like we used to do. You know, I was a kid. It was like, hey, you better stay outside till the lights come on. You know, like, I don't want to see you in the house. And now it's a fight. And I'm like, give me your electronics. You're grounded from it until you go outside and figure out something to do. And then they sit there and they'll go outside and they'll whine and be like, oh, it's too hot, Dad. Hey, we're ready to come in, Dad. Hey, like, you can ground me in my bedroom. I'm cool with that. You know, like when I got grounded in my room, that was a big deal, right? My kids are like, I'll do it. You know, and I'm like, thinking, what? This ain't a good punishment now. Like, I can't, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, times have changed, but it does rob more than people realize on having those addictions. It really does.
The only punishment that ever worked for my kids was I had this app called Net Sanity, and I could turn their apps on and off on their phone. So if my son didn't call me back, or he didn't want to do his homework or something like that, I just turned off Snapchat and Twitter, and he was like, what do I need to do to get it back?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so that tells you how addicted they were.
Yeah. Well, they feel like that's, again, their connection, though, you know, and they say on social media, like, people may have thousands of people on there, thousands of followers and stuff, you know, but realistically, out of those people, like, who's really your friend, or who are you actually associated with? Who do you converse with? You think your friends, like, people are like, oh, I've got 5,000 people on Facebook. And, you know, do you have 5,000 friends, or do you have maybe 2, 3? Like, let's, you know, you might have 20, like, you know, again, if you're a networking person and for different things, I'm saying these things can be also used as tools, right? That's how you guys obviously connected.
Yeah.
Right. There's tools, there's right ways to use it, but the way things get sucked in. And like I said, it's really sad. Like I could write a whole speech on this.
Yeah.
You could do a whole solo podcast on this.
I can feel your energy getting into it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really frustrating to me, actually.
Well, and, you know, where you were saying with the mechanisms, they're everywhere. We're surrounded by them. And for me, when I was wanting to start changing my life, I'm not a big reader. Never liked to read, even if it was something I was interested in. I did not like to read. I mean, within probably 60 to 90 seconds of reading. I'm like, yep, okay, well, I'm done. Put the book down, maybe pick it up 2 months later, read for another 60, 90 seconds.
Google.com summary of this book,
Oh, can I find their TED Talk? That's
right.
my favorite. I'm not
The
going to read
TED
the book.
Talk.
I'll find their TED Talk.
There you go. But I remember that I had to start changing habits, because a lot of the stuff, the self-help books that I was starting to read, and I mean, it took me some time. I bet you it took me a couple of years before I really started getting into the habit of reading. I finally decided I'm going to read one chapter every day, just one chapter. That's it. I can do that. But it's funny, I would thumb through it to see how long the chapter was. And I'm like, oh shit, there's 8 pages this time. All right, I got to read it. So I'd read it, but it started retraining my brain. And I got to where finally I'd go, oh crap, I haven't read my chapter today. So I was starting to get myself out of old patterns. And again, it was choice. I chose to do it. But I wanted to do it because I didn't want to get stuck in that same rut all the time. I wanted to be somebody different. I was saying the other day, can't remember if it was on our podcast or not, but I said, there's no finish line in life. I mean, there is no finish line until the day our creator decides to take us home, and I know people who have well, I've accomplished this and I'm accomplished that. I'm good. I mean, seriously, are you good? I mean, there's more. I mean, yes, that's cool that you reached your goal, and you should definitely be proud of yourself, because I'm sure it took a lot of hard work and dedication, but there's got to be more. I mean, I'm always striving to be better. I've come a long ways the past 12 years. Am I satisfied where I'm at? I could be, but am I? No, I'm not, because I want to go to a different level. I don't know what it is, but I'll know when I get there, I'm pretty sure. And once I get there, I want to go to another level, because it's really helping me grow and expand my brain. And yeah, like you were saying, Mark, I'm guilty as well, man. There's times I come home and I'm like, okay, frick, I've had enough. And I just hit the remote button and sit there and I'll just chill watching TV. And then there's other times it's get on the computer and I'm going through my emails, or I get on this, and before I know it, I've just wasted 45 minutes on social media, and I'm going, really? I mean, my wife and I, we went to dinner a couple of years ago, and we both had our phones, and I'm looking around the restaurant. Everybody that was sitting at a table or a booth, hardly anybody was socializing. Everybody was on their freaking phones.
Yeah.
And I looked over, I had my phone in my hand. My wife had her phone in her hand. And I'm like, okay, you know what? It's enough. Anytime we go out, this is our time to spend together. No more of this phone shit. And it was just a step of going, okay, it's a baby step, but it's a huge step in a way that we are not going to look at our phones. And if the phone rings, we're not going to answer it, because this is our time to spend together. So
that's the key. You just actually, for me, illustrated the key, because these conversations can be overwhelming when you have the three of us, at our best, pontificating about society and how all the ills of, technology and society and kids not going outside and all that stuff. We sound a little holier than thou because we're talking about an ideal. Mm-hmm. In real life, if you can make a pact with your significant other, when we have meals, or with your family, here's the basket, our phones go in the basket just for dinner, right? If you can schedule a walk without headphones, just add little things in your life or take things away. Just take that little 1% step. It pays big dividends over time. Yes, you don't have to, you don't have to flush all your social media out the door. You don't have to get rid of Netflix, right? It's just where can you bring in a little bit of consciousness so that you can start expanding your life and expanding your choices. It was really eye-opening for me. My son was kind of a goofball in high school. Very popular, and was doing some goofball kinds of things. He's now in yeshiva in Israel. Yeshiva is seminary for Jews, and he's steeped in Orthodox deep spiritual work right now in Jerusalem. And he came back to visit, and he can only eat in certain foods, and I had to separate dishes, and he was pretty keen with young ladies. He cannot be, he cannot touch and date women at this point. And you would think that it's restrictive. You think that he put himself in a box that would make his world smaller. And what I noticed about him was, because he now had a flip phone instead of a smartphone, because he prayed before he ate and was conscious when he touched water and when he did things, there is a power and a focus to him and a freedom to him that it just blew my mind. I preach service is the way, is the way to sanity and freedom and happiness and joy. I preach, consciousness, all these things. My son took that to another level and came back and was so conscious and so present and so free that it blew my mind and had me even redouble my spiritual efforts in the same vein. We don't practice the same discipline, but we have the same end game.
Yeah.
And I was shocked at the freedom and the power that I felt from him from that.
That is really cool. Thank you for sharing that. That just, I got goosebumps here on my arm when you were sharing that.
Well, it goes to show too, just again, we take for granted how powerful our minds are internally and what we're able to do and what we're able to attract. And you want to get into quantum physics and talking about the law of attraction and things like that. It's crazy about what can be.
Let's go.
Yeah.
No, I love that stuff because I love the law of attraction. I've read several books on it, and I need to get better at it. It is one of those things, again, you got to continually work at it. You got to continually work about your thought process, and no, you can't control all your thoughts, but when you get those bad thoughts that come into your head, you do know that you can consciously revert them to a positive, right? And so it continues to doing that. It takes work. And we're all human, somebody cuts me off. I'm like, if I was in a bigger vehicle, you wouldn't be here today, in my head. But there's, and taking it back, it's like, don't let that person affect the rest of your day, or like going through struggles, if financial struggles, which I've gone through, several times. We've been in a tight spot as it is right now, even, and we're trying to move forward, and it's like, sometimes I beat myself down. I'm like, I can't let this get to me, but then I'm like, okay, if we don't pay this bill, they're going to come take the car or whatever, something like that. I'm like, JD, calm down. You know what needs to be done. You know how to do it. Just go out and do it, but like you get in that self-talk and that negative talk, and it's so easy. And I've talked to people, it's like, if you fill a room with 100 people and you put one negative person in that room, chances are the rest of that room is going to turn negative because it's such a powerful force.
Yeah.
Right. So, but training yourself and thinking and like I said, just going into the things with your son, how he being in the moment, being very conscious of everything that he was doing and being there, having that power, he has very much conditioned his mind and worked on it so hard that he is able to, that gratitude that he has for everything that he does, the way that he does things, it shows, right? And we can all be that kind of caliber of a person. Yeah. Doesn't matter what religion, doesn't matter where we're from, what color of skin we have, we can all do and accomplish that. But we allowed all these other things that turn our brains to mush, right? And so it's again making that conscious decision, and that's related to work, your relationships. If you have, again, if it's something against a negative substance such as alcohol and drugs, it's the same thing. We talked. I used to, and I'm not here to talk bad on drugs, but I remember, like, again, seeing people on it. Like my dad, when he got into methamphetamine, I was like, just change. You're turning your brain into a sponge, like, and not in a good way. Like I absorb things and I learn things. You're literally like destroying it.
Sponge.
Yeah, and so like being at that standpoint and seeing those things, it's crazy. Again, it's like, I don't know where I was going with that. I'm all over. Like, you got me. My head's going a million miles an hour right now.
You're a wise young man, JD. You're a wise young man.
His wheels are spinning.
But again, too, my big goal and stuff is I want to make a big impact. I want to help people just like you are, Mark and Al, and being able to see those things and stuff, and what I've been through and what I've seen and watched what destroyed my family. And I mean, I still struggle. I'm a human being, you know what I mean? I still have my moments and stuff, but I'm consciously aware enough to know, but the drive that it takes, you know, it does take a strong person. It does take strong will to create those habits, those dopamines, you know, like your son touching that water is a dopamine, you know, like again, the gratitude where us would be like, all right, wash your hands, get out of it. We don't even think about it. Right. It's the same thing again, bringing that rise in that level. And it's, the law of attraction, man, quantum physics stuff. Just, my tower's just all right now.
not being grateful for some of the simplest things. And I loved what Mark shared about his son, because I know people, I won't say names, but I know people that have been saying they're going to do stuff for the past 3 years and they still haven't done it. They're still running the same life. And now that's their choice. I'm not knocking them down. I'm not saying anything bad about them. I used to teach a health class, and we would talk about certain foods and different things. And so many people are afraid of that change because it's like they've got to give everything up that they like, and they don't. It's just a habit change. You just got to change something, and it could be this big. And by doing something that's an inch, that inch can turn into a mile. I mean, very, very easily, and before you even know it. And it sounds like your son took those steps from what you said, how he used to be, and now he's taken these steps. And now he's looking at things completely different that you're noticing. It's like, and I've shared this many, many times on our podcast, like going to AA meetings and hearing somebody get up and go, I thank God every day for making me an alcoholic. Well, why the hell would you thank God for making you an alcoholic? That's just freaking crazy. But then as they finish their story, you're going, oh shit, I get it. You're seeing life in a totally different way. I'm not an alcoholic. Why am I not looking at life that way?
That's
right?
Just being grateful for what you've been and where you've been. And again, that right there, you know, talking about that, you noticing that in your son, Mark, you've also too, it's like you said, you've refocused a little bit on yourself. Like you've become more aware, like it helped you, you know, in that instance, and it helps you grow, helps you level up to the next level. And again, surrounding yourself by like-minded people. And like you said, you know, not talking bad on people. I have one. She gave birth to me. We won't mention names.
Okay.
But right. She's a professional procrastinator. I love her dearly, but she will be late to her own funeral. That's yeah. So, you know, but she talks about growth. She talks about wanting to make a difference and stuff like that. And I'm just her son. You know, until I get out there and I'm big like you, Mark, you know, she probably won't take me seriously. So, but you know, that's just, you deal with those people talk about change and stuff. And it's so small, like you said, going outside, you know, taking that walk, just making that conscious decision. Don't get on Facebook for 20 minutes. Go take the walk for 20 minutes. Don't put the headphones in, go take the walk in peace, listen to nature, be out there, be a part of it. Let your, you know, your vibrations is the way I'm going to put it. But, you know, like, be around and embrace the elements around you, right? And taking that in, but making those small choices of, instead of 20 minutes of Facebook, let's go that 20-minute walk. You know, one, you probably you're going to burn off a lot more calories than this exercise, right? The button,
doing push-ups with your thumb, that's important, isn't it?
I change it up finger wise, but yeah, you know, so again, I'm sorry. I'm really excited about
it's
this.
good. Sometimes I tell him he's got to stay off the energy drinks. So
it isn't this right here. This isn't it. I promise you. I love this stuff. This stuff makes me really excited. So
well, let's stop for another quick break. And then when we come back, Mark, I mean, seriously, you have shared some great stuff. Every second of this show, I've loved it. I mean, he's got some great insight. He's got some great knowledge. He's lived it. He's living it, and he's proved that this stuff works and how you can change things. So let's stop for a quick break. We're going to be right back. And then we're going to have Mark share a little bit more about how you can find him and what he's got going on right now. You guys good with that? Okay. All right. We'll be right back.
Good morning, this is Leticia with Computer Hospital. We are your computer repair experts for both PC and Mac. We are your community resource for all of your computer repair needs. What makes us different is that we want to fix your computer. We also do free diagnostics. We charge a flat rate labor, which means that you won't pay by the hour. All of our computer repair is done in-house with a fast turnaround time, and same-day service is also available. Feel free to stop by anytime without an appointment. We're located in Sandy at 8721 South State Street. Again, that's 8721 South State Street, or call us at 801-987-3993. Again, that's 801-987-3993. This is Leticia with Computer Hospital, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Hi, this is Tamara K. Anderson, and I want to share something special with you. When our son Nathan was diagnosed with autism, I felt like the life we had expected for him was ripped away, and with it, my own heart shattered as well. It's very common for families to feel anger, pain, confusion, and anxiety when a child is diagnosed. This is where my book, Normal for Me, comes into play. It shares my story of learning to replace my pain with acceptance, peace, joy, and hope. Normal for Me has helped change many lives, and I'd like to give this book to as many families as possible. We've put together something I think is really special. My friends and listeners can order copies of my book at a significantly discounted price, and we will send them to families who have just had a child diagnosed with autism or another special needs diagnosis. We will put your name inside the cover so they will know someone out there loves them and wants to help. I will also sign each copy. You can order as little as one or as many as hundreds to be shared with others. So go to my website, tamarakanderson.com, and visit the store section for more information and to place your order. You can bless the lives of many families by sending them hope, love, and peace. Check it out today at tamarakanderson.com and help me spread hope to the world.
Welcome to the Resilience Talk Network. My name is Jay Walter, and I'm the host of Rebuilding, heard every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. You can listen in and learn how to face your fears, overcome obstacles, and make dreams a reality. So listen every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Resilience Talk Network.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the other side of addiction. Man, we've had some good stuff being shared by Mark Jay Silverman. Thank you so much again, Mark, for your time. Before we get started here to finish this show, we want to say thank you to a few more of our sponsors. We've got Troy Hoddle with I Am Power Ninja Real Estate. Troy, he's a phenomenal guy. I love this guy. TJ McLeland from Fitness Realty. And we have Tatiana Rose from Advanced Business Books. She does bookkeeping. Guys, thank you again for all your support. Thank you for your kindness and believing in our cause and what we do here. I mean, everybody that I've named off, just huge supporters. They really like what we're doing, and they're really helping us spread the word. So we wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, and also without our listeners. I mean, thank you. I just, every week, I just got to say thank you, because it's all because of you guys. That's what's making this possible. All right, Mark, you are doing some awesome things. You have a podcast. You've got so many different things going on. If I'm a listener and I'm hearing what's just been shared today, and I'm going, I really like this Mark dude. I got to reach out to him. I got to ask this guy some questions. How can people find you?
My website is where everything is, markjsilverman.com, the letter J, silverman.com. You can find the Mastering Midlife podcast there. You can find my books, my writing, on the socials. You can, find me on Facebook and Instagram and all those things. And that's how you find me.
Okay. So anywhere on the social media platforms, you're there. Kind of just kind of like how you and I
think you and I
ran
met
into one-
with Vanessa.
That's where it was. Okay.
The magical Vanessa.
Yeah. The Queen of Magic, right?
Yes.
She's the one that hooked me up with Laban yesterday. He's the guy that I was talking to in Australia. Just a great guy. But Vanessa she's an awesome lady. I mean, she is an incredible lady. We enjoyed her being on the show. I just wish that it was easier to get people like yourself and like Vanessa and Tamar and to get them in the studio, because we're all huggers here. And it's so hard just to see people on the other screen, even though we're very grateful. It's just good people. I mean, good people like yourselves who've got this story to share, who's got this drive to go out and help other people realize their potential, what they can do. They just got to put their mind to it and put that fear away. I mean, so many of us have that fear of not wanting to do it. I think I'm struggling with that a little bit, even starting my book. But Laban yesterday said, and he's like, mate, you get on it like right now.
I tell everybody who's writing a book, it's because, so many people call me and how'd you write the book? No. I'm like, look, nobody's going to read your book. Nobody's reading your book. Don't worry about it. Just write your book. Nobody's going to read it. and that kind of frees people up because it's just so funny. Most people don't read the freaking books. Just write the book. People will read a chapter here or there. Don't worry about it. It doesn't have to be perfect. My first book went out with so many, I didn't know I needed a copy editor. So I had more spelling errors, grammatical errors. I mean, it was like written by a 5-year-old, and it sold 50,000 copies in the first 2 years. And like with all these mistakes, and I was mortified, right? Nobody cared. It still got 5-star reviews, still sold thousands and thousands of copies. Now it's perfect. 2.0 is the rewritten version. It's wonderful and all that. But this message never changed and nobody cared.
Yeah.
Just write the freaking book and publish it.
I love it. That's good advice. I really like that, because you're right. I mean, most people probably won't, because I mean, my wife's working on me, with the way I say different things. I was brought up in a place here called West Jordan, and growing up out there, that was like farmland. That's all it was. It was like Hicktown. It's not anymore because it's grown, but I learned how to say words differently, and now that I'm working on speaking and different things, I'm really doing my best to be more professional and stuff at it. But there are a few words I've told her, I'm like, you know what? This is how I flip and say it. And they're just going to have to deal with it because that's me. That's who I am. I'm not going to pretend to be some scholar that's coming out of Princeton or whatever and be able to say all these, because big words, man, they're not in my vocabulary. I mean, you said some today. I was like, wonder what that means.
Nope, I feel you.
So I'm going to have to go back and listen to this and get a dictionary and go in and see exactly what the meaning is. But Mark, thank you so much for your time. It was an honor to have you here on the show with us. And gosh, I hope we have an opportunity to hook up again somewhere down the line. I love what you're doing. I love your story, what you've gone through, where you've put your life. I mean, here it is again. We've got proof that it doesn't matter where you're at, and it doesn't matter how old you are, you still have that opportunity to make a change.
No, absolutely. And again, you can go from ground zero all the way to where you feel like you don't have hope, and know that there is hope and that you can rise and make it to the top of the mountain. So again, Mark, thank you so much for the example.
Can I leave you with one more story?
Absolutely. You bet.
So here's back in 2017 on Christmas Day, my appendix had burst. I didn't know it had burst. My ex-wife told me to go to the hospital. Because I was in pain, and I was like, no, I just got a stomach ache. Anyway, I went in the hospital. It turned out my appendix had burst. And I was in the hospital for 9 days. My body completely shut down. and I lost all kinds of weight, and was really, I couldn't eat, so my body wasn't moving anything through. It just completely shut down for 9 days. And it really looked like, the doctor said your ex-wife saved your life. If she didn't tell you to go to the hospital, you would have died on the way to the hospital. And so fast forward, I get out of the hospital after 9 days, and when I go out to walk, I can shuffle like a little old man, and I really I felt destroyed. And 2 months later, I was at a mastermind in Sedona, and we drove up to the Grand Canyon. And I was with my people in the mastermind. We were at the Grand Canyon, and I pulled out my video, and I looked great because I was so thin. My face was nice and thin and everything because I'd lost so much weight. But I remember putting into the camera going, if you're going through a hard time, just keep walking. 2 months ago, I was dying in the hospital, and now I'm at the Grand Canyon with people I love. Just keep walking. And that lesson has, every time I get a setback, every time something looks bleak, I realize, and now being 59 years old, that life is long. Life is short, but life is really long. Mm-hmm. And if you got a setback and you're in the dumpster, I was homeless, right? Life is going to change. Keep walking. That's the message I'd like to leave with people, is that the perspective of living this long and having this many downfalls and renaissances is that it can change, just like JD said, and it can change powerfully. You never know what's there for you. So keep walking. That's the message I want to leave with.
I love that message.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mark. And then you're 59, right? You said
59 years young.
Yeah. You look great for 59 years old, sir. So I gotta put that out there. Yeah. You're doing very well. So.
Love it. Mark, thank you again for your time. JD, thank you again for your time. Listeners, sponsors, Brad, thank you all. We love you all, and we appreciate everything that you guys are doing to help us. So stay tuned for another great show. We've got more, I'm just going to say it, phenomenal guests lined up, some really great guests. Mark, I just got to say thank you. I know I've told you over and over, but thank you again. And we're going to leave you guys with this. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing. Recovery is giving up one thing for everything. Thank you, guys.
Ooh.